Hello, everyone, and welcome to Agent Chat Live. Today, I have Amanda Orozco. Oh, I should have asked you if that was the correct pronunciation. I'm sorry, we were chatting for so long. Amanda Orozco is a literary agent at Transatlantic based out of Los Angeles. She graduated from NYU with her Master's of Science in Publishing, Digital and Print Media. Before joining Transatlantic, she worked in subsidiary rights at Little Brown and at Park and Fine Literary and Media. While at NYU, she interned at the National Book Foundation, Shreve Williams Public Relations, and the Gurner Company. So please welcome to Agent Chat Live, Amanda. Hi.
Hi. Thanks so much
How
for
are
having
you?
me.
Oh, thank you
I'm
so much for
good.
coming in.
Yeah, I'm
Um,
doing great.
awesome. So we have Heather said hi, pubbers. So Pub Talk Live is my regular show, and this is a spinoff of it. And so the regulars they call themselves pubbers, which is super cool.
Awesome. You have a following. Hi, Heather.
Yeah, I have a small but dedicated group that come to most of the videos, so it's awesome. All right, so Amanda's link and Twitter, by the way, is in the description, so you can get that if you would like to follow her. Hey, Courtney. And so my goal here is to help potential clients get to know agents a little bit better. Viewers are welcome to drop questions in the comments, but I do kind of want to start off by saying that I won't really be asking questions that a Google search can answer. So things like word count or like how long should a query letter be or something like that. But I also won't be asking anything like that I like to call pre-queries, where people are like, oh, are you interested in this book about mermaids in space or whatever,
That sounds awesome.
I know. I always use that as my example, and everyone's like, yes, I want that. And then I should write that. Hello from Delaware. Hi. Hello. It's probably significantly cooler where you are than where we are.
For sure.
All right, so let's just start off with the easy one. What genres and categories do you represent?
Yeah, so I represent quite a range, which I think reflects just my own taste in reading. I have quite a broad interest across the board, but I go everywhere from children's and YA to adult fiction and nonfiction. And, on the children's side, anywhere from board books to picture books to select middle grade and YA, which, as I'm sure many people have, I grew up like devouring. So YA has a special place in my heart. And then on the adult side, I have about half fiction, half nonfiction clients. And in fiction, just really looking for that voicey narrative where the protagonist's personality really just pops off the page. Anything that is light and fluffy, offbeat and quirky, or, on the opposite end of the spectrum, I also really love dark, gritty, twisty stories. I love, anything from contemporary to romance, things with speculative or horror elements. But yeah, I have my dream authors that I would love to represent if they weren't already represented, or the people I would love to find that have similar works, anywhere from Mary H.K. Choi to Elizabeth Acevedo, Wakey Wang, Kylie Reed, Lee Bardugo, Ling Ma, and Carmen Maria Machado obviously is just a rock star, and she's amazing, so brilliant. Kathy Park Hong and Jenny Odell on the nonfiction side. So yeah, those are just a few of my recent favorites. But yeah, I'm also just particularly drawn to stories from Asian and Latinx writers. Really care about bringing forward stories from the margins, even if it's stories that have already been told, but maybe not from the perspective that we've heard from yet. and stories that bring us to a different place, and kind of reveal a different part of the world that we haven't quite seen. So that's a little bit about me. And yeah, I'll also just add I love, magical realism, folklores, mythologies, anything that is like kind of a modern twist on those. I love those as well. So that's the laundry list.
Awesome. One of our regulars, well, she can come sometimes. She lives in Australia, so sometimes the time doesn't work for her. But she always asks, Tamara always asks, if you could work with any published author, who would it be? And you kind of answered that already, so that was cool.
Yeah. I mean, I would also add Minjin Lee, because I have gotten a chance to meet her, and she is just the kindest person. Like, I
Mhm.
was being a total dork and fangirling when I like went up to say hi to her, and she was like, "Do you want to take a selfie?" And I was like,
Ah.
"Yeah." But yeah, she's amazing too. So
Nice. So why did you get into agenting in the first place?
yeah, that's a great question. I just in the course of getting into the industry, I had an amazing experience at the Gurnert Company where I was interning as I was getting my foot, in the door of the industry. And I think from that experience, really getting to see the care that agents take in looking at their clients' work and managing their client's career, and how much editorial work actually really goes into working with an author before sending it out.
Mhm.
I think, like most people, before I knew anything about the industry, I wanted to be an editor because I was like, yeah, that's the only job there is. And then, like, through the course of all my internships and my work experience, kind of getting to see the breadth of like how many people actually touch a book. And I think it was exciting to me, the agenting side of getting to work so closely with an author, not just for like one project, but also over the course of their career, and getting to provide that like early editorial feedback and really kind of get to work with that diamond in the rough and just like refine it. um, and yeah, I've always really loved talking about books with others. And, when there's a book I am really passionate and enthusiastic about, like finding the people who I think should read it or who would love it, so I think that's part of what agenting is really, is finding the projects you're really passionate about and then finding the people who will love it as well.
Awesome. Cool. We have a question from the comments I'll ask real quick. When will Amanda be opening to queries again?
Yeah, that's a great question. I actually just recently closed. It's something I do periodically, just because I want to be fair to the people who have already sent in their queries, and I want to make sure I'm responding in a timely way.
Mhm.
Um, and it can feel a bit overwhelming, like as they keep pouring in. So I'm hoping by the end of this month, I'll be able to have caught up enough to be able to reopen. So I think generally I'll kind of have a pattern of closing, for a month, just to give myself time to
Mhm.
respond and
Catch
make
up.
sure, yeah, I have enough time to actually read what I have instead of, getting distracted by like the incoming queries. But that's a great question.
Nice. All right. So this next question has a preface because I find if I ask it straight on, agents will be too humble. So I'm giving you a chance to brag about yourself a little bit. So I encourage you to take advantage of it. If someone is thinking about querying you and your wish list lines up with their work, why should someone query you? Why would you make a good agent for them?
Yeah, that's a great question. Thanks for prefacing it too. I think, as for myself, I'm still building my list. I joined Transatlantic in the fall of last year. And so right now I have a select list of clients, and I think that gives me a lot of time to be able to work really hands on with the clients that I have. And I really enjoy the collaborative work, getting to kind of go back and forth and provide the feedback and get the revision and then kind of go from there and really strategize, not just like the strategy for, the work that we're currently looking at, but also just like the next few projects, the career, really thinking through even like a backlist title that, if we have the audio rights for it, what do we do? Who should we submit it to? Really trying to maximize everything. Because, I recognize that it's a career for some of my clients. And so really trying to make sure that like I'm doing what I can to just maximize the projects that they have spent so much time and they've dedicated, so much work towards, really trying to make sure I serve them as best I can. And along with that, I'm pretty I'm very communicative. I care a lot just about making sure that my clients are looped in for every step of the way, and that they know what's going on. That they're not just left in the lurch. And it can be hard because publishing moves so slowly that like sometimes it's like nothing to report, or there's nothing new right now. It's only been 2 weeks. It's still early. Everybody has a lot to read, and so I think it's just a matter of providing that like constant feedback of like, there's nothing new to report, but like, we're gonna, here's what we're gonna do. Here's what we can do in the meantime. And and I think also just my background in my work experience, I have a lot of experience in sub-rights. So I have a bit more of like an international vision for a work. And when we do have world rights, really kind of getting the chance to think through how can we submit this to foreign publishers and get this translated and published, because that's always really exciting to be able to say, I have a Russian translation of my work. Like, that's really cool. And I think even just from my experience of working at Little Brown, kind of getting to see the foreign editions come in and sending them on to the agent and authors, and just being able to like see a bookshelf with all the different editions. It's a really exciting part. And in the same vein, I really love the film TV side, and that's something that we as an agency are growing a lot in. We've just recently this year met with quite a few of the big agencies, and we work non-exclusively with them, which I think gives us the advantage of being able to really choose who's going to be the best to partner with. And and I'm myself a huge film TV buff, and I love watching especially things that are coming out on Netflix and things like that. But just really thinking through not just the book itself, but the strategy for the whole content, kind of having a broader vision of that for either a single project or like the career, client's whole career. I don't know if that did it enough there, but I'm just really excited, and I am really passionate. I am a little bit like once I'm really into something, I'm really into it, and so I don't get tired of it quickly at all. And I just really love working one-on-one with authors and clients, and developing a long-term relationship. So yeah.
Awesome. Yeah. Well, so just yesterday I was listening to the Deadline City episode about agents. I don't know if you listen to the podcast with Danielle Clayton and Zoraida Cordova. And that was one of the things that they spent a lot of time talking about, is it was important to them to have an agent that would help them strategize their career and prioritize, the different things that they needed to prioritize in order to have the career that they wanted to have. And so it's something I've been thinking about a lot, like the last 24 hours because of that conversation, So it's good to hear. All right, so we're going to switch gears a little bit. We have, so my Patreon supporters can submit questions ahead of time. And I have 2 questions from Patreon supporter Lodestar. The first one we're going to do now. And we talked about this before. I'm going to switch it up from what I emailed you. So he saw that you played mahjong and he was excited because he had to train all his friends how to play so that he would have people to play with. So he was like, "How do you find people to play mahjong with?" And then I think the other part, the second part of the question is, did you watch Crazy Rich Asians?
I did, yeah.
Yeah. So he was asking how you felt about the mahjong scene in Crazy Rich Asians.
Yeah, that's actually really funny. I'll answer that second question first because when I first saw it, um, I didn't really understand like the impact of it. It was before I had really like learned the rules and like what everything meant. And my mom is Chinese, and so like every Chinese New Year, you know, we would go to her side of the family and like they would sit down to play mahjong and I would be at the table too, but my mom would basically be like, "Oh, do that, do that, do that." Like she didn't really teach us how to play. And it wasn't until I'd gone to Hong Kong to visit my grandparents. What was that, 2 years ago now? Where like I actually really learned how to play, and it was at like this table that like shuffles it automatically for you, and
Oh
then
yeah.
like rises up with like the perfectly set stack, and so that was so fun. We actually no regrets at all, but we spent most of our time while we were there playing mahjong instead of visiting the city, which was great, and so I think after that trip, then really understanding like what everything meant, getting to see that scene in Crazy Rich Asians, I was like, oh my gosh, like it actually makes a big difference. Like you understand the significance of like her sacrificing that piece of like she knew she could win, but she didn't. She gave up the piece, the winning piece. And so, yeah, I mean, in terms of finding people to play with, it is hard. I think especially in this time when you have to limit your personal contact, and it is just one of those games that like you can play it online, but I think you miss out on a lot of the just like the fun of it, of being able to be in person. So we actually my partner and I just moved into a new building, and so we have now like 30 other units of people that we can potentially reach out to to like ask if they want to learn how to play and teach them. So yeah, but it's hard. We've taught like many of our friends to play, and once they get it, they really enjoy it. It seems like a lot more intimidating than it is, but if you think of it as just like a version of poker almost, it like maybe is a little easier.
Yeah. Yeah, I played like a little bit digitally, but I've never played with an actual like tactile set. But in Crazy Rich Asians, she gave up the piece, right? But she also, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, the mother knew, right? The mother knew that she could have won and didn't on purpose, was part of it, right?
Yeah. Well, no, I don't actually remember now that you bring that up. I thought it was the piece that like she knew the mom needed, and so she gave it up so that her mom could win, which is like, the whole metaphor for whatever the situation.
Yeah.
But I think it was also, I don't know if it was the piece that would have made her win, but like she maybe already had a winning hand. I can't remember.
Yeah, I think so. Anyway, we can talk about that for a while. So let's see. We have another question from the comments, so we'll go ahead and do that. What are some questions that writers commonly don't think to ask on the call, and I guess maybe should?
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't know. I think I would actually reverse that maybe and say, from my experience, it almost feels like authors will have like a bullet point list of questions to ask. And, the conversation gets a little hijacked by that list, where it doesn't feel so much as a conversation as I don't want to say interrogation feels a little bit strong, but like a bit of an inquisition, and you kind of lose that personal aspect of like you're also just trying to feel out each other. You're trying to really get a sense of who this person is and if you would work well together. At the end
Mhm.
of the day, that's really what it's about. And you know you can kind of sense if this person has really read your full work, or if they had a reader read it, and kind of provide a report. And so I think, I actually would kind of counter that question with another question of like, what do you really care about in terms of like what you're looking for in an agent? And you should ask those questions,
Mhm.
instead of trying to go off of the internet list of questions. Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting because when I queried, I had an offer from a publisher and an agent offered representation. And in the conversation, like through the conversation that we had on the call, I realized he probably did not read my entire book. Like I could
Hmm.
just tell from the way that he was, I was going to say talking about my book, but more importantly, not talking about my book, you know?
Hmm.
Um, and then when I signed with my agent, like the call that I had with the person who's my agent now, it was like completely opposite. Like she just kind of like gushed about the book and the things that she liked about it. So
Hmm.
yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah. And I think that's one of the questions too that, is on one of those lists of like, well, what was your favorite part of the book and that
Mm.
kind of thing. But yeah, I think you can tell when somebody has actually read it and knows exactly like what happens in the end of the story. And they don't keep it general and just like kind of lay on the like general flattery. Um, yeah.
Yeah. All right. So this is another question that have a caveat. It's the second of three questions that have a an introduction. So often when I hear this question asked, it's like, if you had a magic wand, what would you change about the industry, right? Which is to me as a pragmatist is like a very frustrating question because no one has a magic wand. So realistically, let's say you were like the CEO of Penguin Random House, soon to be Penguin Random House, Simon Schuster, whatever, like all of them combined, I guess. Um, and you could change like one big thing about the industry. What do you think that you would change?
Oh man. Yeah, that's a tough question. But I mean the first thing that comes to mind is really I think putting my money where my mouth is, in terms of like, yes, we want to publish more diverse voices and actually putting money behind that. I think with last year and the whole publishing paid me thing, it just became really clear that there's a whole discrepancy of what advances authors of color get versus, the franchise white authors. And yeah, and I think there could be a lot more change in that regard. There could be more risk taking. I think there has just been a general trend lately of, I mean, lots of people have talked about it, but the disappearing mid list, and how so much of the company's money is being put towards these, flash in the pan, big bestseller books by celebrities that aren't even written by them, like the ghost written books that like, are really just capitalizing on the person or celebrity's platform. So I think that would be the first thing I would want to change is really um, putting aside more money for authors of color and really making sure. And I think there is efforts to do that right now. But I think along with that, it would mean taking on less of those platform driven books. Or maybe just being more selective about which ones of those they publish because it's a lot of money. Some of the advances are millions of dollars, and some of them are flops, and so then there's like millions of dollars that go towards this book that actually didn't sell. So I think there's just a line of thinking there that needs to maybe be reevaluated. And yeah, I don't know. I'm sure there's a lot more data that the publishers have on that.
Mhm.
And so, this is just from my own perspective, being currently outside of a publisher's perspective. And, ultimately just comes down to the dollars and capitalism. But, there's only so much we could change. And yeah, so that would be the first thing I'd want to change.
Nice. Have you ever heard of the podcast You're Wrong About?
No.
Oh, I love it. I just finished, like, I started listening to it during quarantine. I just finished like the backlog. But they talk about like historical social things that the general public has misconceptions about or misremembers, usually because of the fault of bad journalism at the time, right?
Hmm.
But one of their like kind of taglines or whatever is it was capitalism all along. Because like the root of like so many bad things is just like someone trying to make money.
Right. Yeah, and I
um,
think on the other end of that, it's also just like we as readers and consumers, we just need to be buying more authors of color, the ones that do get published. We should, get behind them. And I was really excited to see how, I mean, The Vanishing Half has just really taken off this year and has just continued to be a bestseller. And I think that is just, I'm really happy for Britt Bennett and the way that Riverhead especially has kind of come alongside her in her career. And so things like that, where it's like there are so many authors of color, and it's kind of just a matter of like being in it for the long haul and coming alongside them in their career and supporting them on all ends, as people in the industry, but also, consumers could
mhm.
be more mindful about using their dollars and supporting authors of color.
All right. So if you sign a client, what can they expect after that? What does that process normally look like? How do you communicate with them? That kind of thing.
Yeah. So I guess logistically, like after signing a client, we have a follow-up conversation about next steps. If during our initial call, we kind of get into, here are some areas that maybe we could improve in the manuscript, or, here's how we want to make it stronger before submitting it. Then we kind of have another conversation that's more in depth. I'll usually provide more notes, through email, just in a letter, in terms of like, here are some of the general areas, but also page notes, getting real specific, and doing some line editing as well. And yeah, and then from there kind of talking through, okay, like revision wise, what does your timeline look like? Let's set a deadline that works for you and your schedule. And then, yeah, kind of checking in periodically, depending on how far out that deadline is, to see if there's anything I can do to help, and then also kind of doing the welcoming of the new client to the agency and kind of getting that out there, and supporting, if the author does already have social media, kind of helping to help build that out and support that and engaging with that. But yeah, I do have a pretty open communication style. I like to, check in, if it's been 2 or 3 weeks and there's still something outstanding with a client, like I will check in either through email, sometimes through phone, but like some clients prefer not to talk over the phone, or just it's easier to do through email. One of my clients, like, I will email her, and she just has such an overloaded inbox that, like, if it's something urgent, I'll just text her and just be like, hey, I don't know if you
Mm-hmm.
saw this, but this is, something I wanted to discuss with you. And then, yeah, if it's something that is better to discuss over the phone, we'll set up a call. So I think that's been the great thing about having, starting out with a smaller list of clients, is that I have the time to really, in the headspace, to be thinking, okay, what else needs to be done here? How else can I help out in this instance, and what is my client's main focus right now, and how can I kind of be ushering along these other projects too.
Awesome. All right. That was something that we were talking about. I can't remember who it was I was chatting with recently about sometimes when an author signs with an agent, and even when they sign a publishing deal, they're not provided guidance on like kind of their professional representation online. Because so like I used to be a publicist, so I teach classes on press kits, having a press kit ready.
Mm-hmm.
And I often teach to authors published with traditional publishing houses, and they've never been told to have any of this stuff ready, So I think it's really important that you have that conversation with them. And
Yeah.
that's good. Yeah.
Yeah, and having something as simple as a bio, on a
Mm-hmm.
website, and just even if it's literally just a landing page with your
Yeah.
bio, somewhere that you can direct people. If you're on Twitter a lot, like just having somewhere that will like kind of direct people
Mm-hmm.
who want to check out your work, to be able to go to.
Yeah, definitely. I'm also an event planner, and so I'm always the person looking for that information, right? So
Right, right. Yeah. I mean, bios come in handy. It takes a lot of work up front to like really get it down, but then it'll be used, throughout. And then once
Mhm.
you have it, you can just tweak it and make changes
Yeah.
as, you get published more and as you get more book deals.
Yeah, one of the things I always when I teach about bios is I always say brag about yourself. Like I know it goes against a lot of people's instincts, but like talk yourself up.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, so we have another question from Lodestar. I saw you attended the Beijing International Book Fair. He's very excited by this. Do you speak Mandarin or would you have to in order to attend?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, I went to Beijing in 2018 and had a great experience there. It was really, really amazing. I myself don't speak Mandarin, which I'm kicking myself now because my mom would drag my brother and I to Chinese school
Oh,
every Saturday until we begged to not have to go
oh.
because there was so much homework. And now I truly regret it. I wish I had stuck with it because I tried learning on Duolingo, like the basics, and it's so hard. It's a really tough
Yeah.
language. So yeah, let's start. If you can speak Mandarin, all the more to you. Like that is really, really incredible. But no, we didn't have to in order to be able to attend. They did a great job of providing people who were able to translate and speak English. And they also had this technology. I mean, I guess it's probably not anything new, but it was the first time I'd seen it, where you just have the headset and somebody's in the back as somebody is speaking, and they will be like speaking into a microphone, and it'll be kind of being broadcast to everybody's headset. So, and you can change, if you need it. If it's the speaker speaking in English, then if you only speak Mandarin, you'd have the headset and the person would be translating for you into your ear. So yeah, it was a really cool experience.
That's like some UN level stuff going on.
Yeah, it was amazing. And I think they're still like pretty young and starting out as a book
Mm.
fair. I think when I went, it was like their 25th year compared to, Frankfurt and London. But I think they were doing some really cool things. It was really cool to see that side of the market too, and like how innovative it is and kind of what areas they are really growing in and building out in. So yeah, it was awesome.
Cool. That reminds me when I went to Tokyo Disneyland, specifically we went to like the Honey I Shrunk the Audience, thing. They had headsets for people who spoke English because it's broadcast in Japanese, because I've done that in Orlando, the Honey I Shrunk the Audience in Orlando.
Yeah.
But it wasn't the original English recording. It was like re-recorded in English by different actors because the video is like the original actors from like the English recording. And I was just like, why? Why? I guess it's a copyright thing, maybe. I don't know, but
maybe.
it was weird.
Wow.
Yeah. All right. So you did not have these questions on the questions I sent you because they're quick round questions, and I just like to get like first thought. So, but
Okay.
they're fun. They're not, it's fine. Yeah, so the first question is the final question that has like a little bit of an intro is when I was like coming up with the name for the show, which was a spinoff of Pup Talk Live. I am terrible at naming things, like really, really bad at naming things. And so I'd asked my Patreon supporters like if they had any suggestions. And Lodestar had actually suggested snack time with an agent, which I thought was cute because I wanted it to kind of convey like a casual like atmosphere, but I also was worried that it would imply it was only for like kidlit when it's for all different categories. So this question is what remains from that title. All right, what is your favorite snack?
Oh my gosh. Well, snacks happens to be one of my other passions. And actually, it's funny because there is an Instagram account called Live from Snack Time that is just really cute. And I don't know if you've heard of it, but it's just like kids say the darndest things, but yeah. But it's usually around snacks. So I guess I feel like I go through phases. Right now, I'm super into these spicy mochi nuggets from Trader Joe's. I usually have them on my desk. I don't have them right now. But they're just like this like puffy, they're made from the same material as what is in the dessert mochi. But it's kind of it's covered in like this almost like hot Cheeto spice. It's a little different from that spice. But yeah, it's just like crispy, crunchy. It like has that like the spice that lingers, which I love. I also love spicy things. And so that would be my current favorite right now.
Nice. Cool.
Yeah.
I'll have to check those out. I have a soy allergy, and a lot of times anything with mochi in it also has soy flour in it, but I'll look and see. What is your preferred caffeine source?
Coffee, intravenously. I will have at least 2 to 3 cups a day. And my partner and I actually just got like the Chemex like thing and the whole gooseneck kettle, and so we're really all in on the coffee. We have like our own grinder and we grind it, so it's extra fresh. But yeah.
Nice.
Coffee all the way.
Yeah. We have a ongoing coffee versus tea battle here, so I'm team coffee, obviously.
Have to be.
I don't think Jay is here today. She's usually the leading voice for team tea, but
I do love tea, but I also would not be able to survive without coffee.
Yeah. Do you have a word or words that you irrationally hate?
Oh my gosh, yeah, actually so many. I feel like recently sure has been one of them, even though I find myself using it. But I don't know why whenever somebody says sure, it's such a passive affirmative to me that it's like almost passive aggressive, like sure,
Yeah.
But I feel like I have others. Moist. I also don't like, but I don't know if that's from the How I Met Your Mother episode. I don't know where that came from. It might have just come from that TV series and then kind of became a joke, and then a real thing from then. I can't think of any other words that I really dislike, but for sure. But like not when you use it in for sure. Like, because that's so different than sure.
When it's like standalone.
Right. Yeah. When it's sure period or sure semicolon or sure comma. Yes. Like
sure followed by
just say yes. Just say yes. Like, or yeah, like, if you're agreeing to it, agree to it.
I'm thinking about now, sometimes I say sure thing.
Yeah, it's different though,
Yeah, I feel like there's a different energy to it.
Yeah.
All right. Is there any person that you would like to read a memoir from that, as far as you know, hasn't published one?
Oh, can they be
Anyone?
Unfortunately, anyone,
Yeah.
like living or dead.
Yeah.
Okay, like I would definitely read a book by Selena then. I feel like, especially with this Netflix series that just came out, I just feel like we don't really ever get to see her side of the story, and I just think it would be really fascinating. I love her music, and she's like one of the like constants in my life aside from books. And so I don't know. I was a dumb kid actually, and this is really embarrassing, but when I watched the JLo version of the movie, Gregory Nava's film, when I was like 5,
Mm-hmm.
I thought it was like actually her. Like
Oh.
it was like, how did they capture their like her life leading up to like this moment? Like that's
Oh.
so crazy. But yeah, I was a dumb kid. But still really loved that movie, and would love to read her memoir if she were
Cool.
ever able to write it and come back from,
Yeah.
the dead.
Mm-hmm. Cool. Very good answer. All right. If you have one, who's your favorite superhero?
Oh man, I'm not really into the whole
It's
superhero
okay.
thing.
That's fine. You can say that. It's okay.
Yeah. Gosh, I would say, can I say Sailor Moon?
Yes, for
Because
sure.
she's a superhero to
100%.
me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I grew up watching her and loved her. And I wish they would do a reboot of her. Yeah, I'm not like super into the Marvel DC thing.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah,
No,
I'm super into
Sailor Moon
Sailor
is,
Moon.
yeah, perfect. Good answer. Um, Heather is very excited by your answer. Yeah. The only time I really judge people is when they say like Batman. I'm like, is that the only superhero you know?
Right. I know. I know.
That's
And if
no
we were
offense to
to
the
get
Batman fans out there, but
if we were to get really specific, it wouldn't even be Sailor Moon. It'd be Pluto, I think.
Mm,
But you know, I like
yeah,
all of them.
yeah. Like like my niece, her favorite, I asked her favorite superhero is, and she said Elsa, and I was like, yeah, that's legit. Good answer.
Yeah.
Um, all right. I think this is going to be our last question because we have been chatting for quite a while now. What is your single best query letter tip?
Oh gosh, single best. Can I give a three-part answer?
Yeah.
I mean, I think the first thing is, the ones that really stick out to me are when they are personalized in some way. Of like, I think you would like this because you are a fan of Lee Bardugo. Something as simple as that that shows me that like you're not just sending out a mass query, but like you
Mhm.
actually took the time to see like what I'm looking for and how your work lines up with that. And then I kind of am on this like thing where, you know, at the end of the day, it's like we're two humans that love books that, I want to know about you. Like, not just the bio, but like I love it when there's a line of like, um, you love dogs, or, just like you love this weird thing, or I
You
think
love Sailor Moon.
exactly. Yeah. Any Sailor Moon fans out there, make sure to include that. Yeah. So I just think, keeping it personalized to whoever you're querying, but also not being afraid to kind of show a little bit about yourself and your personality. I think those always really stand out to me. And they just help give me a sense of like, this isn't just like a robot that's querying me out of like 500 other people.
Mhm.
Um, and then I would lastly say, like, keep it short and sweet. If you're not able to talk about your work, in the pitch for like in 1 to 2 sentences, like, you should workshop that a little bit more. You should be able to kind of give a brief, like, what is this project? It's surprising to me how many times, like, I will read a query and be like, after reading the letter, I'm like, I still don't really know. Is this a YA? Is this an adult novel? Like, what is it? Like, it's about these teens, but like, are you targeting it towards adults, like as a crossover? So, yeah, I think that is that is kind of like one of the basics. But that's what kind of I look out for.
Awesome. All right. So thank you so much, Amanda, for joining me today and
Yeah, thanks so
chatting
much.
with us and answering everyone's questions. If you're watching live, thank you so much for joining us live. I love it when y'all interact and ask questions. It's always fun. But if you're watching the replay, appreciate that too. And if you're listening on the podcast version, always happy to have you, however you're consuming, watching, listening, whatever you're doing. So we have coming up Wednesday, we're doing our Wednesday write-ins every Wednesday at 8 p.m. Eastern. Come and join us. You can write, you can plot, you can blog, you can clean your bathroom. Like people come and do all sorts of things. And then on the next Pub Talk Live is next Saturday, and my special guest is Stacy Whitman. So that's going to be super fun. I'm looking forward to chatting with her. And everyone stay safe, wash your hands, wear a mask, and we'll see you next time. Bye, everyone.